Hello, this is Rosalind Sedacca, and welcome to Divorce, Dating, and Empowered Living. I want to thank you for attending and joining us today. And as you know, every week we interview people who are experts in the world of divorcing, co-parenting, dating after divorce, and everything related to having children when you're going through a breakup. And today I'm very excited to introduce you to an expert on the field of mediation and assisting with mediation when you have children, which I know is the reason all of you are here attending with us. So her name is Marian Grande, and Marian is an accredited family mediator and parenting coordinator who's well known for her sympathetic and empathic approach, whether mediating, parent coordinating, or coaching, while ensuring her clients have a safe, neutral, and calm setting to express themselves. Marian, it's a pleasure to have you with us today.
Thank you for having me here today.
So let's get into some of the questions that I wanted you to share with us, because I think mediation is a topic that is very near and dear to my heart. I always encourage my clients to think about mediation as the first option before you get into any kind of litigation and more complicated legal issues, because mediation is the most likely way to keep the family dynamic in a healthy relationship, everyone with one another, and have the most peaceful outcome. So I wanted to ask you, Marian, how mediation facilitates better communication between parents regarding their children's needs and their well-being.
Well, firstly, it provides a structured, neutral environment where both parties can express concerns and preferences. The mediation process encourages open dialogue between the parties, active listening, helping parents to focus on their children's needs and best interests of the children instead of focusing on the conflicts.
Well, I agree with you that when you're not focusing on the conflicts and you're focusing on the family dynamic, you're already starting off in a much better mind space and headspace, and that makes for a more successful outcome. So let's talk about how mediation helps parents create parenting plans that address immediate and long-term needs of their children. We all know that parenting plans are part of the divorce equation, and they can be very complicated in some families. And mediation, to me, seems like the ideal place to really balance things. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So, firstly, as I mentioned, it focuses on the children's needs. The mediators tend to keep discussions centered on best interests of the child, ensuring that both immediate concerns such as living arrangements and school schedules, as well as long-term goals such as education, healthcare, and emotional support for the children, are considered. So this approach helps parents prioritize their children's well-being. The second way is it's a customized parenting plan. So through mediation, the parents collaboratively work together and develop a parenting plan tailored to suit the unique family dynamics of their own family, right? So that differs largely that if somebody was going to court where the judge would make the final decisions, here the parents are making the final decisions. And the plan can then be flexible enough to address the changing needs as the children grow, covering aspects like holiday schedules, extracurricular activities, and future educational needs. It also encourages co-parenting cooperation. So mediation will foster cooperation and communication between the parties, which is crucial for implementing and adjusting the parenting plan over time. And this cooperative spirit can help parents anticipate and manage potential challenges, such as changes in work schedules or the children's evolving preferences. Let's say if a child is no longer interested in hockey, but now they want to try soccer. So things like that. It also reduces conflict by resolving disputes in a non-adversarial setting. Mediation reduces the conflicts that can arise during the creation of a parenting plan, And this can lead to a more amicable solution, making it easier for parents to agree both on short-term and long-term decisions. It helps future planning. It can help parents think ahead by discussing potential future scenarios and how they might address that within the parenting plan. So this proactive approach ensures that the plan remains relevant and effective as the children's needs may change over time. And mediators can also provide insights into what a legally sound and practical parenting plan may look like, and may help in creating the parenting plan that is more realistic and in line with legal requirements, avoiding potential legal disputes in the future.
Yeah. So you mentioned a lot of very important things about the flexibility and the plasticity of these parenting plans. And the idea is that parents aren't going to have to go back to court in a year or 3 years or 5 years, because obviously children are aging and lifestyles are changing dramatically through childhood. But the parenting plan has the ability from the day that you create the divorce decree to adapt to that, right? If it's put together properly so that you're foreseeing a lot of the shifts and changes. Is that correct?
Yes, absolutely. Because, like, as we know, kids go through different phases in their life, right? And things change, parents change. Maybe a parent has a 9 to 5 job now, but in 5 years, they'll be working shift work, right? So you need to have that flexibility in the parenting plan so you're not ending up in court over disputes every time there's a significant change in somebody's life. So
Exactly.
I think that's really important, because as the needs evolve, the parenting plan has to also evolve with it.
So evolving is really a key principle, making sure that it has that kind of evolving flexibility, and an experienced professional mediator is going to know the questions to ask and the perspective to keep all of that happening, as opposed to someone who doesn't have experience doing it, who may overlook a lot of things, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And the other thing that I love is that the parents are working collaboratively
Uh,
to come up with this parenting plan. You have that flexibility. I always say to my clients, you know your family best. You
yes.
know your family way more than a stranger, such as a judge, would know your family. So you having the say in this parenting plan is very vital.
And I think that's one of the most important points you just made. And I talk to my clients the same way about that. No one knows your family and your children like you do. Opening the door to letting a stranger make decisions about your family now or in the future is opening the door to craziness, because you're not going to be getting the insights that the parents know and understand about each child's personality and their interests and talents, etc. And so you want to be creating something that is adapted to your unique family dynamic. And anyone who is going through the legal system on a periodic basis every few years, going in and making shifts and changes, is in for a lot of chaos and craziness, not to mention high expense. Isn't that right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And you really don't want to be going in and out of court like that until your child becomes an adult. It's going to be mentally taxing, financially taxing. Um, it has an effect on your children. It's really not in the best interest of anyone.
Yeah. So let's focus a little more on the way mediation resolves conflicts, because that's really one of the biggest areas. You know, divorce is about parental conflict on one level or another in most cases. And
Hmm.
so you're going to get two parents who very often really do love and care about their children and want the best for their children, but they have different perspectives about what that best may be. So how do we work with resolving conflicts through that parenting plan?
Yeah. So it's all about minimizing tension and protecting the well-being of their children. That's first and foremost. I like that there's a neutral environment. There's a safe space there where both parents can express their concerns without fear of judgment or retaliation. And it also helps having a neutral third party being the mediator to ensure that the discussions remain balanced, on point, preventing one parent from dominating the discussion, which helps to reduce the tension. Again, focusing on best interests of the child rather than on personal grievances or disputes or what happened in the marriage, right? The focus should always go back to the children. So I feel like mediation is this really child-centered approach to help parents prioritize the children's needs over their own conflict. So that leads to a constructive outcome, and it leads to a better co-parenting relationship down the road, right? It also improves communication. So mediation really encourages open and respectful communication, which is essential for resolving the disputes that you have at that moment in mediation, but also teaches you how to resolve those disputes later on if they come up, right? It teaches and models effective communication techniques such as active listening and expressing the needs clearly, which parents can use in future interactions, right?
Yeah.
There's also, in mediation, you're also taught de-escalation techniques, right? So mediators are trained to recognize when tensions are rising and can intervene to de-escalate the situation. So you're not getting into a shouting match. Mediators may suggest frequent breaks, reframing statements, or focusing on areas of agreement to prevent further conflict in the mediation. And as I said before, it's a collaborative setting. It emphasizes collaboration over confrontation. By working together to find mutually agreeable solutions, the parties are more likely to develop a shared sense of responsibility and cooperation. And this would lead to a more sustainable parenting plan or agreement down the road. And that prevents future conflicts, right? Also, by resolving conflicts privately and amicably, we know that court is of public record. Most of my mediations are closed, so they're private and confidential, and it shields the children from the stress and emotional burden of parental disputes. When parents are able to resolve these disputes through mediation, they're less likely to expose their children to the hostility that often accompanies litigation. It's also empowering. Empowering is important. Mediation allows parents to take control of the resolution process, which we spoke about, rather having the solution imposed by a judge or a court order, right? You end up in litigation. It's never a pleasant experience, and it really damages the co-parenting relationship. So this sense of ownership over the agreements that you reach in mediation can actually increase the parent's commitment to adhering to the agreed upon parenting plan, as opposed to being told what to do by court order. And as I mentioned before, and this is a big one, I think, it's the long-term relationship building. You're fostering a more cooperative spirit. You're teaching conflict resolution skills to the parties, and that really, really helps with the co-parenting relationship down the road. And it creates really a more stable and supportive environment for the children, because now the co-parenting relationship is in a much better place had the parties gone to litigation and fought through all these issues, and now they're being forced to do something by court order that they're not comfortable with, or they may feel is not in the best interest of the children because the judge really doesn't know your family like you do.
Wow, you've made such important points, and you could see from everything you've said, and our listeners can, which is why the Child-Centered Divorce Network so strongly endorses mediation, because it's child-centered, it's family-centered, it's focused on cooperation and collaborating and doing what's best for the entire family dynamic in the best possible way. So it's definitely a win-win option that everyone should seriously consider before making any other choices, especially diving into the craziness of litigation, which very often ends up not providing the two sides of the equation, the two parents, any closer in the co-parenting and has spent a fortune of money, and the energy is more conflictive and aggressive and non-cooperative than it was before the divorce even started. So we want to make sure that we're not encouraging conflict, but instead encouraging that cooperative co-parenting spirit that you've been talking about. So thank you for that. I want to make sure before we lose our time for you to tell our listeners how they could access you and your services.
Yes. So my practice is called Absolute Dispute Resolution. You can reach us at absolutedisputeresolution.com. We're also on various social media channels where we have a great family group on Facebook. We are on Twitter. We are on Instagram. So all the major social media channels, you will find us. Just search for Absolute Dispute Resolution, and you'll have all our contact details right on our website.
And Marian, do you work, are you limited to a certain geographical area, or can you work throughout the United States?
So I'm based in Canada. I'm based in Ontario.
Oh, okay.
Yep,
So you're
yeah.
definitely not working in the United States.
Yeah, so I'm based in Ontario, so I'm right across Canada. And yeah, and then coaching, I can do divorce coaching pretty much anywhere. And that's, I find that's really beneficial to a lot of people. I have a lot of people calling me from the US.
I can imagine, because it's the spirit of what you care about that really makes the difference in the success of all of these kinds of negotiations. And you certainly demonstrate that you care about the family dynamic. And when parents are working in a more harmonious way, the children get the benefits, right?
Absolutely, 100%.
There are more than one form of mediation, and most likely you have a preference for the way you work. But can you just quickly address whether, because some people mediate with two mediators, some people mediate with attorneys involved, and others have no attorneys involved. And so what options are there available?
So I've mediated with co-mediators, I've mediated with counsel present, and I've mediated without counsel present. So it's really up to my clients. If they would feel more comfortable having counsel present, I encourage it, because it's an open format. So I want everyone to be comfortable and to speak their mind. So if they feel that the only way they can speak freely is with counsel present, then definitely I encourage it. But I have a lot of clients who don't bring counsel, and it's just the parties involved.
And it can work just as successfully that way as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah, sometimes there's something about not having the counsel involved, where the two parents can just be looking at each other and remembering that we're the family, and we're the people who are going to be moving on after this divorce is finalized, doing the co-parenting, raising these children that we love, and continuing. I always talk to my parents about the fact that you're still a family. The form has changed, but you're still a family, and you're still going to be the parents of these wonderful children. And the more that divorcing parents can remember that, the easier it is for them to understand what you're trying to do in the mediation process. Is that right?
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a great way to put it. The format of the family has changed, but underlying is still the family. That child still has both parents, and both parents should make decisions together for the betterment of the child.
Absolutely, I agree. So I just wanted you to briefly touch on talking about the emotional and psychological stability of the children, and the part that plays in the mediation process.
And you know what? It goes back to to it being a child-centered or family-centered focus, right? Mediators will keep the discussion centered on the children's well-being. They will help parents identify and prioritize the emotional and psychological needs of their children, right? Such as maintaining a sense of security, continuity, and connection with both parents. So this ensures that all decisions made during mediation are aligned with what's best for the child. Again, we're reducing conflict and stress. So it's a less adversarial process than litigation, which helps reduce conflict and stress for not only the parents, but also for the children. And they're fostering a peaceful and respectful environment. Mediation will minimize the emotional turmoil that the children might otherwise experience if they were heading into court. It's also encouraging positive decision making. Mediation will encourage the parents to work together to find solutions that benefit their children. And this cooperative approach helps to create a more stable family environment, a more supportive environment for the children, as opposed to going to court, right? Customized solutions, once again, the parenting plan will be tailored to solutions that are specifically pertinent to your own family. And whether it's crafting a visitation schedule that minimizes disruptions or addressing specific concerns like school or healthcare, mediation helps the parents create plans that support their children's emotional stability. And that's hard to do in court, right? The judge doesn't know the emotional state of the children, right? It's a very black and white environment in court. It also improves communication between the parents, which is crucial for making informed decisions at that time, but also down the road, which I talked about earlier. And this effective communication essentially helps parents better understand their children's needs and respond to those needs in a way that promotes emotional and psychological well-being. It provides safe space for expression. So the parents can express their concerns, their fears, their hopes for the children without fear of judgment or retribution, which you may get in a court setting, right? The safe space allows them to consider their children's emotional needs openly and constructively. You also have the guidance of a neutral third party, right? So your mediator's not making the decisions, they're guiding you. They're facilitating this discussion so you can make a positive parenting plan that benefits the children and again is centered on the child.
Yeah. Well, this has been a wonderful conversation. I hope our listeners have gained a lot of insight about the value of mediation, which I always advocate. So thank you, Marian Grande, for doing that for us.
Thank you so much for having me today.
So we've been listening to Marian Grande and myself on WGSN-DB, the Going Solo Network. And you can tune in each week to listen to another podcast on divorce, dating, and empowered living with Rosalind Sedacca. As you may know, I'm the founder of the Child-Centered Divorce Network, a divorce and co-parenting coach. And the focus of my work is helping parents make the best decisions about their children before, during, and long after divorce, long into the co-parenting equation, because nothing is more important than making sure that your children get the best experience through your divorce and after. And I want everyone to have the experience of having your children thank you for the way you handled your divorce when they're grown adults. Thank you, Mom or Dad, for the way you handled it, because you made our lives so much easier and smoother during this very challenging period of time. That's our goal, and I hope you've gotten a lot of value from our show today. And thank you again, Marian. And
Thank you.
We'll see you all next time.